So the NASDAQ is officially in correction territory, and the number one question that you have right now is, do I buy the dip right here, or is the market going to keep going down and look like something like that? That's exactly what we're going to cover in this video right now, because I get it. You see a little bit of red in your account. You see the NASDAQ is down basically 10% from all-time highs. It's not comforting for people to see that, and I get it. And if we take a look at my Charles Schwab account, you see that I'm experiencing just a little bit of volatility, but not really too bad. All-time highs for this account was like 1.5 million. So honestly, I'm pretty close to all-time highs, but I'm just getting a little bit of a little jiggle around over here, we could say. So here's what we're going to do in this video. As always, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to go through why the market is fearful. We're going to go through the data that's actually coming out, how the businesses are doing fundamentally. We're going to go through the valuations, if the market is a bubble or not. We're going to go into the fear greed index, and we're going to go through a bunch of companies that are about to report earnings in the next couple weeks that are humongously opportunistic right now. So let's just start from the top. We get it. The market is down. We get it. You could go look at a chart and say, oh my God, Brandon, I get it. The NASDAQ, if I look at this on a year-to-date basis, it's up 9% still, but I still don't want to see this red. Here's how I look at this. I've been plotting on this channel for a very long time the earnings per share growth line. Stocks are always going to follow that in the long term. This is where it's at on the NASDAQ for the last year. I already did all the math in the background, but this is basically where it's at. So what you're seeing right now is a crossover point. You are seeing that the market is now a little bit below where the earnings per share growth line is at. So in English, what does that mean, Brandon? It means that the market is now on sale. The market is now cheap. But what you're seeing online is all these headlines like, well, we're going to raise interest rates. What about Iran? What about the oil situation? What about the AI circular financing? What about Q2 earnings coming out? And what if they're bad? What about capital expenditures? I get it. And we're going to simplify all that. But what I'm telling you right now is that the market is on sale. And when the market is on sale, and when there is fear in the market, as Warren Buffett says, when there's fear in the market, that is when you want to get excited, and that's when you want to start to be a little bit greedy. Okay? So think about it here. The market was running to the moon. Everyone's excited, euphoric. But look at this distance right here. The market was quite a bit of ways above fair value. We'll just call it 14% overvalued right there. It shouldn't have surprised anybody. It didn't surprise me. Nobody in my community is surprised that the market took a little bit of a breather. It's justified, guys. It is justified. The market went up way too much. It went up too much. It's coming back to earth. EPS is catching up, which is like the foundation under the market. And this is the signal in the market of where it's likely to go in the long term. As EPS grows, the market is going to follow that. So we know my Charles Schwab account, like I said, it was 1.5 million. It's not like 1 million now or 800K or 700K like many people you see online. Like I see so many people where the market's literally only down 10% from all-time highs and their accounts are down like 40%. Like you don't want to allocate to those high beta garbage bubble stocks like we'll talk about in a minute. You want to allocate to great companies at good prices and simply be patient and do options in a way where if your portfolio falls 50%, you're going to be cool. Okay, so let's look at a couple things right here. So as we talked about earlier, the fear greed index is now at a level of 38. We have some fear in the market. Where are we at in relation to the 125-day moving average? A little bit above it, but it's nowhere near as bad as what it was right here. So this makes me get a little bit more bullish about the market. But, you can see it says fear right here. Like, I think this is BS. The market is not fearful when it's this far above the 125-day moving average. This is fear down here. And as we talked about in a previous video, the higher that the put call ratio goes, the more people that there are hedging their portfolios and capitulating. I'm starting to see more capitulation right now, and when I'm recording this, the market is down. So I bet you tomorrow when this updates, it's going to be even higher. You're going to see more people hedging, more people buying puts at precisely the exact wrong time, just like they did down here on the Iran situation. Buying puts was humongous right here. There's so many people buying them, and it's starting to pick up right now. And you saw how the market did going forward from there when people capitulated. What is likely to happen going forward from here? Well, we'll talk about it. We'll cover some stuff here, and I think you'll build a thesis on where we think the market's likely to go. Okay, so let's talk about this report right here. These are amazing reports, but there is pretty big problems on here that we have to cover because, yes, you know that I talk about how the number one thing that moves the market in the long term is the earnings per share growth. For Q2 of this year, we have 27% of the companies in the S&P that reported so far. The earnings per share growth rate is 38%. Like, that is absolutely like insanity. The average is 8 to 10% per year, and that's why the S&P averages about 8 to 10% per year in the long term, like in the last 50 years. Right now, we're like almost 4x that. It's insane right now. But there is a problem with this. These are fake earnings for the most part. Not for the most part, but for part of it, and we'll cover it in just a second. But that being said, the earnings per share growth is very, very strong right now. Very good. And of the 27% of companies that reported so far, 86% are beating earnings per share expectations and 80% are beating revenue expectations. So not only are they growing very fast, but we're beating the expectation. And when you beat the expectation, that's like an upside surprise potential in the market. Now, everyone's saying, well, Brandon, like, I get it. The growth is good, but the market's a bubble. Like, it's just a bubble, Brandon. Like, it's just a bubble. It's going to crash. And I'm like, okay, let's just go look at the data that nobody could really go debate. Here's a valuation right here. Forward 12-month P ratio for the S&P is 20, the 10-year average is 19, and the 30-year average is about 17. Where are we at in relation to that? We're obviously a little bit higher than that, but this is orders of magnitude higher right here. So it's largely justified in my opinion. I do not think the market's a bubble. I think the market's pretty close to fair value. Now, we haven't talked about this chart right here in a few weeks, so let's cover it really quick. This is signal. This is critical signal in the market to understand. 10-year chart, the darker line is the forward 12 months earnings per share, and the lighter line is the S&P 500 actual price. What do we see is obvious here? The market follows where the profits go in the long term in a very bumpy way. When the market goes above the EPS line, hey, we might get a correction. Market above, hey, market above, hey, market above, hey, what's happening right now, right? So you want to allocate down here, here, and here, and down here, like this was COVID, obviously. Like you want to allocate when the market is opportunistic and when there's sales out there. But the thing that many people don't get through their heads, like right now, for example, is like so many people are like, yeah, I'm going to go buy the dip. I'm going to just capitalize whenever the market dips again. And they say that when the market's up here. But in reality, people don't realize that the market usually dips for a reason. So when it does dip, it's never going to feel good. It's like so many different catalysts happening right now in the market. It's like, I could never invest in a time like that. So what they say is, well, I want to wait for the smoke to clear. Like, how did that work out for the Iran situation? Like, did we ever like technically clear the smoke on that? Not really, in my opinion, but the market said, oh yeah, well, the signal of the market, the EPS growth line's going up. Hey, like we should re-rate this market higher, but it just got a little bit out of control and carried away right here. So by looking at this, the market is still a little bit above the EPS growth line, but it's pretty much there. And this data is a couple days late. It's going to come out on Friday for the new report. We're basically there. So the market is not a bubble, in my opinion. It's actually getting cheap. But I want to look at something right here that not many people are actually understanding. And it's what's going on with earnings from a company like Google and many of the big dog companies in the actual index, how they're reporting. Take a look at this chart right here. The market is kind of like putting the entire back on these companies right here. Micron, Alphabet, Chevron, Exxon, and NVIDIA. These are the S&P 500 top 5 contributors to Q2 2026 earnings per share growth. Look at Micron. It's absolute insanity how much they're growing. Like this is Q2 2025, this grayer one, and this is the most recent quarter here. Like it obviously went from like $2 to 25, like humongous growth, right? Alphabet, same thing. Chevron, Exxon, like price of oil is going up. We get it. They're going to make more money. And then NVIDIA. Like, is this going to be durable and sustainable forever, especially for like Micron and Alphabet? The answer is absolutely not. And if you go up here and you actually understand what is actually happening under the hood with true earnings per share, the story doesn't really look that good. So if we were to exclude Google from the earnings per share growth rate for the S&P 500 for Q2 of this year, the earnings per share growth rate would fall from 37 to 25 just by excluding one single company. So yes, the growth is not this good, but it still is very, very good if we exclude Google, which is the biggest contributor, like on that, weird accounting rule that's happening right now. So the point I'm getting at is that earnings per share growth is very, very strong. And as you could guess what I'm going to say next, EPS is going like this. Where do we think the market's going to go? Up and to the right like that. Yes, it's going to be volatile. Yes, we're going to see bumps like we're seeing right now. But if you are patient and keep your pants on, you are likely to be rewarded. Okay, let's take a look at the NASDAQ price earnings ratio level, okay? It doesn't really look too bad in my opinion. This is right now at 21.5. What was that in 2022? 22. So we're now lower at a price earnings ratio level right now versus what it was back here in 2022. And look, I'm by no means making any promises to anybody, but take a look at what the market did from 2022 to right now. Let's go from right here at 2022 to where the market's at. That is 158%. How much the NASDAQ actually went up. So if you're patient, and this was about 4 years, by the way, if you're patient, maybe we could expect similar returns as that, especially when we have a decent valuation to start and very good earnings per share growth. And yes, I get it. You don't want to see all this red over here, but that's just a part of the game in the stock market in the short term. It's going to be bumpy, it's going to be volatile. Now, one last thing before we go look at some companies that I have my eyes on and I think are like very, very opportunistic. We've talked about this before, but look at it. When the blue line is a fear greed index, the orangish looking line is the S&P in the last like 6 years, we'll say, whatever. The more fear that there is in the market, the more bullish the market actually is from that point going forward. It's literally the complete opposite of what you would normally think. Like here on the Iran situation, big fear in the market, right? Good returns going forward from there. Here on the Liberation Day tariff dump, big fear in the market right there. Good returns going forward from there. So as the market, honestly is pretty close to all-time highs still, but as it kind of jiggles around and gets volatile, more fear is building in the market. And the more fear that builds, the more capitulation that I see, the more margin calls that I see, the more that I just see people panicking, the more bullish that I overall get. Like I like to basically just go on X and kind of just like doom scroll for a little bit as if I'm like sitting on a park bench. And I just like to see what people say. Like one day they're bullish, one day they're fearful, one day it's the end of the world, one day it's the best thing ever. People run around with their heads cut off. Okay, let's go through a couple earnings here. So I'm recording this video on Tuesday the 28th. If you watch it a few days later, the video is 100% relevant still. Everything is still going to be good. But Microsoft reports tomorrow. Microsoft is definitely on my radar. Price earnings ratio level is cheap. We have 24 for trailing PE. Good top and bottom line growth. Microsoft is definitely on my radar. Meta, you guys know, has been on my radar. Of course, always keep your ratios in check. You don't ever want to go too heavy on one individual company just in case you are wrong. I'm always big on the S&P and NASDAQ as my like schmuck insurance in my portfolio. And then when I allocate to things like Microsoft and Meta, I'll buy shares, I'll sell puts, and I'll buy calls. Of course, when I go sell puts, I'm always doing 1 or 2 year puts out. Strike price for Meta, for example, could be like a $500 strike. I'll take the cash flow, reinvest it right now at a time when the stock is compelling, and it'll be portfolio secured too. It's not going to be cash secured. And just like to give you a little glimpse of like what portfolio secured puts actually mean, it means that what this $1.4 million account is invested in, that is what is securing the trade. I have no cash in this account. So if this account were to fall 50%, just say it becomes $700,000, I'm always going to have more money in account value than what I'm on the hook for to buy of puts if I get assigned everything. So basically, I can't get a margin call. I can't get wiped out, even if the market falls 50% more from where we are at right now. And that's just like one of those things that once it clicks, but if it doesn't click, it's not going to click. But link below, 10-day stocks and options, transformation training if you want to learn more about that. Otherwise, I'll link a video at the end. But Meta is bullish in my opinion. I don't know if it's going to gap up or down on earnings. I don't know what any of these stocks are going to do on a short duration basis. But what I know is when you buy a good company at a good price with good earnings per share growth, the patient investor is likely to be rewarded. Let's look at Robinhood really quick. I think that Robinhood is a little bit expensive at 44 times trailing earnings. Yes, the growth is decent, but their growth is kind of slowing down a little bit. I think there's a little bit of competition building. Yes, I get it. They're doing the agentic trading on their platform, so maybe that'll drive like transactional volume revenue and stuff like that. Robinhood's a little bit too pricey. Looking at Thursday, we have Apple reporting earnings, which is going to be pretty big. I do think that the stock it's overvalued though. Like I can't pay 41 times trailing earnings for this company when, the revenue and earnings per share growth isn't really that good. Investors are kind of flocking to Apple right now, in my opinion, because they're one of the few big dog companies that are not spending a bunch of money on CapEx. And Apple is just more of a stable, predictable company. Like many people would say, we think we know where Apple's going to be in 10 years from right now, but looking at other companies, it's harder to tell. So, that's why investors are willing to pay a premium for Apple right now, but still I think it's expensive, and it's no surprise that Berkshire Hathaway has been selling some Apple stock. Looking at Amazon's basically a fair value in my opinion, good top and bottom line growth. Top line's a little bit sluggish, but I do think this growth is going to pick up a little bit. And, the PE ratio, yes, it's kind of expensive, but it's not really too bad. When we get volatility in the market, like it's opportunity when we get these little jiggles right here, in my opinion. So I might be allocating to Amazon, of course, like I said, buy shares, sell puts, buy calls. That's the order that I go in for like bullish hierarchy. Buying calls is only like a max bullish play, and I don't think Amazon is max bullish right now. I need a better price on Amazon. Of course, this big jump rate here on earnings per share growth is because of the private investments that they're bringing mark to market. And I talked about that in my previous video about how Google was doing that, where they have private investments, and private investments appreciate in price, and then that gets reflected in earnings per share. But it's not like truly the fundamental Amazon or Google business that is improving that much. It's just that they made these investments and they appreciate it a lot. So To close out the rest of this week, we have Chevron and Exxon are probably going to report good, but oil prices are kind of falling like a rock, and honestly, I'm not surprised. This Iran situation is eventually going to work itself out. Oil prices are going to fall. The longer that this drags out for, the more that, countries and companies are going to rely less on the Strait of Hormuz, just because humans are smart. They're going to find a way to bypass the Strait of Hormuz in some way, shape, or form. Next week, we got Palantir. So Palantir is a stock that has been taking a little bit of a hit. It's now at 123 a share, definitely consolidating and going down. Reason for this, the stock was overvalued. I've been saying it for a while on a channel now. Still at 129 times trailing earnings. It's getting closer, but it's not quite there yet for me to want to go allocate. So we'll see how Palantir reports. That'll give us a gauge of how they're doing with AI and how they're monetizing that. AMD reports, I think the stock is super expensive. There's no way I could allocate to this company. You can see they're down 8% today, but if we look up NVDA when I'm recording this, I guarantee you, yeah, a stock like NVIDIA, like it's just at such cheaper of a valuation, like 33 times trailing earnings with this top and bottom line growth versus AMD right here, you're getting less growth at a much higher valuation level. So when there's a little bit of bearish sentiment in the market, you're going to see stocks like AMD get whacked just because they're overvalued, they're too expensive. And it doesn't mean the company sucks, it just means it's too expensive, right? Like you got to get a good company and a good price to make it a good investment. So AMD I'll definitely be breaking down. We'll see what goes on with that. And all these breakdowns are going to be done in Discord, by the way. What else do you guys probably care about for next week? There's some quantum stocks. I think quantum's ahead of its time. I'm not going to be allocating to that. That's a gamble. Not really too much more next week. If we go to the week after that, there's going to continue to be more earnings. We have CoreWeave, SMCI. I'm not a really big fan of CoreWeave. I think it's kind of like a B-tier neocloud hyperscaler. The company's not profitable. And, at the end of the day, when they do become profitable, what is the landscape even going to look like for data centers? Like, compute's probably not going to be as tight in 2 years from right now versus what it is now. So what does it actually mean to their profit margins and stuff like that? Like it's probably not going to be good for them. So it's too risky. Like whenever I want to go allocate to a company, and how I built this account and have been beating the market in the last 12 years, essentially through bull markets and bear markets, through COVID, through whatever's, is pretend you're walking into a casino. Like if you walk in as the player could sometimes win, but the odds are stacked against you on every single game that you play. That is a game that most retail investors play. Me, I want to be the dealer or the house. Yes, sometimes the dealer and house will lose, but the more time that the dealer and house plays for, the more likely they're going to win because they know that the odds are stacked in their favor. So that's what I do. I play the long game. I do the Warren Buffett strategy, basically buying good companies for less than what they're worth, and simply be patient with it. I break down the macro. I understand what's going on in the world. I understand the companies that I'm investing in, the competitors, the moats, the pricing power, the whatever. Like, investing is not a hard game. It's not rocket science. And you have to accept that you're going to get volatility in the market. Like just because you decided to invest in a market, that doesn't mean that the market has to go green every single day from the day that you decide to be an investor. Like you just YOLO the talk. Oh my God, Brandon, like that sucks. Like, why did I do that? That was stupid. But like if triple key right now is $6.75 a share, think about where this is going to be in 5 or 10 years from right now. Think about all the good companies at good prices. Like where do we think they're going to be in 5 or 10 years from right now? Probably like orders of magnitude higher, right? So don't think that you bought the top right here, because if I go to an all chart, like this right here was a top in 2008. Like you technically bought the top, but if you were a long-term investor, like look what you would have captured right there. So this volatility that we're getting in the stock market right now is just another day, another week, another month in the market, and it's likely to be opportunity. But always keep your ratios in check. Always know what you own and why you own it, because if we get deep volatility and one bad thing stacks on top of another, you are never going to be in a situation where you get wiped out, because you only got to get rich once. You only got to make it one time in your portfolio to just, be financially free. So do it the right way, build your base, do options in a way that makes sense, and move on with your life. And don't worry about all the stupid noise online right now. Like 95% of people don't beat the S&P in the long term, meaning 95% of the garbage that you're reading online right now is from people that don't beat the market. So like, why take advice from someone that isn't doing what you want to do? If you put in the same input as retail investors, you're going to get the same output, underperforming the market. If you put in the same input as what Warren Buffett does, meaning keeping emotions in check and understanding that the market's going to be volatile, buy good companies for less than what they're worth, be the dealer in a casino, not the player, you're probably going to do fine. So that's the video. I'm going to continue to capitalize. I post everything in Discord in real time, all the research, all the access to me, everything you want. It's going to be in Discord. You'll love it. Link below if you want to come in. Otherwise, go check out this video right here, how I do options. It'll help you out so much. And I'll see you guys there.